Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Tao of the Day. This is Martin John, and we are talking all about the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching is an ancient text written about 600 BCE. That's when a lot of scholars believe that the Old Testament was written as well. And so this is considered an ancient text. And as ancient texts go, um, all ancient texts have been said to have the same vibration, and the vibration of ancient texts are very high vibration. And what has happened over years of translations and addressing religions and other things like the Old Testament and old texts such as that. They have lost some of their high vibration to fit into the world that we live. And the Tao, I don't believe, has lost as much as some other ancient texts, but the Tao has been translated many times, and I am working on a translation hoping to keep that vibration high and hoping to be able to continue to have the Tao contribute to our existence and to the world that we live in, so that we can better get to a place where we are transitioning into our feminine more readily, where we're open to being the beautiful women that we are. And I love to talk about it that way because, feminine is a really strong place. Women are very, very strong, and the feminine is a very strong entity when we talk about yin and yang. Yang being the masculine structural stuff that happens in the world. It's the walls that make the house, but the yin is the feminine. It is what receives. The yin is the space in the home in which all of the love can and all of the things can be brought. And so that is how I look at it, and I hope to keep the vibration um, of the Tao high in my translation. And I have been sharing my translation here on Tao of the Day over the last couple weeks as I've finished up the 81 chapters of the Tao. It will be available at some point soon. We'll be making it into an ebook, and then probably a print on demand book as well. And we'll see where it goes. I know I'm going to be making an oracle deck, and so if you're interested in any of those things, make sure you reach out to me on Instagram at Martin John. And if you benefit from the work that you hear me promoting here, I also take financial support through Venmo at martinjohn_Garcia. But without further ado, if anybody out there has a number between 1 and 81 that you'd like to talk about, of course you may not know the Tao, and if you don't, that is fine, because just the Tao is within each and every one of us. So there is a natural understanding of what is being said in the Tao if we can get rid of or step away from our ego or the structures that we currently live under the influence of. So I'm going to pick number 17. I'm going to read through number 17 today. For whatever reason, 17 is what popped into my mind, and this is what I'm going to be reading. But if you have a number, definitely come up on stage and give me a number between 1 and 81, and we can talk about your Tao for the day. So my Tao states, is titled Of Masters and Leaders. In the time of the great masters, there were no leaders. Then those whom the people loved led the way. After having created the position, the people feared their leaders. Then they despised them. Having created leaders, their faith in Tao was diminished. Having become a leader, his truth in the people was diminished. When there are great masters, there are no leaders. She works day and night and says nothing about it. When the work is done, the people say, amazing, we did it all by ourselves. See, as I translated this, I wanted it to be really accessible, and I wanted it to be something that people understood right off the bat. And so as I read through this, it's really beautifully put, if I do say so myself. In the time of the great masters, there were no leaders. This is a really important aspect because we couldn't imagine a world where we had no leaders, where we had no police, where we had no government, where we had no leader. Like in the time of the great masters, there were no leaders. What a great idea to have no leaders, to have no laws, to have no structures in place to live by and to uphold. We can just be. We can just be here now as it is. In the time of the great masters, there were no leaders. Then those whom the people loved led the way. So, if you have no leader, like you have no leader, there may not be a leader in your neighborhood. You may just like the neighbors you like and not like the neighbors you don't like, and all of those sorts of things. But if you had a neighborhood watch, or you had some sort of a neighborhood community in which there were leaders that were appointed, then maybe you wouldn't even interact with your neighbors as much, because you would have to go and like sit down and have meetings and do all of those things, right? There'd be these leaders. But in the time of the great masters, there were no leaders. Everybody was able to be who they were and do what they did, and they were able to, just respect each other's space. Then those whom the people loved led the way. Then you love somebody. He's like, oh man, that guy at the corner, he's really great. There is a dispute. Let's go to that guy and ask him to settle this dispute. We'll tell him our sides, right? And then all of a sudden we have leaders. We have people who we are looking at to lead the way. There are people that we are looking to be under the influence of. There are people that we are looking at to, take our responsibilities from us so that they can, because they're smart and we love them and we want them to lead the way. And that's wonderful. There's nothing wrong with that. But that is the beginning of the dissolution of the time of the great masters. That's the beginning of the dissolution of your trust and faith in yourself. So, in the time of the great masters, there were no leaders. Everybody was able to be who they are, as they are, and there were no need for laws. There were no need for structures. All of that stuff just was. Well, then the people that we loved led the way. Oh, great. Well, we love these people, and they're leading the way. After having created the position, okay, this is where things get a little dicey, right? Once we created leaders, we created a position. We said, okay, we love you. We're going to ask you questions. But then, in asking the master questions or asking somebody questions, someone became a leader. And that's the beginning of the dissolution of the faith that we have in ourselves. Right? Once we create the position of there being a leader at all, the people feared their leaders. Once we said, oh, okay, Bob on the corner, we love him, and we're going to ask him questions. Well, after generations or whatever of Bob being the person we go to, we say, let's just make it official. Bob is the person you go to. We're going to go to Bob every time we have a problem. Well, eventually it's just like, oh, I'm having a dispute and I don't want to ask Bob because Bob's not going to agree with me, or Bob is going to think this, or Bob is going to think that. And that's how we create that fear of our leader. Then they despise them because, like you're like, Bob is always putting his nose in where it doesn't belong. Bob, like Bob just, like we loved him centuries ago, like Bob being the leader, right? These things happen over a long period of time. In one lifetime, it might not go like this, but over many lifetimes, it's like, oh, we got the leader's Bob, and we always go to Bob, and then Bob in the next generation is just like feared, and then Bob in the next generation is despised. It's like, why do we got to go to Bob at all? We ain't got to go to Bob. The fuck's Bob know? Right? And this is the dissolution of trusting yourself, because in the beginning, there were no leaders, not a single one. And then we lived as if we couldn't live without leaders. And by doing that, once we created the position, we feared our leaders. And then that dissolves even further to us despising our leaders. So that's how I look at this. And it's like, it's really important for us to understand that we are living generations beyond having created leaders. And having created leaders, we have to deal with the leaders that we've created, and how we appoint leaders, and how, like, we despised our leaders. That's why Trump got into office, right? We despised political people, and so we're going to vote in someone who's not political. But they might be, Trump might just be taking advantage of a lot of people. We're seeing that is coming up over and over again. And so, that's a big, there's a lot to be said in there. There's a lot of leeway in there to be looking at all of this stuff. So we move into the next lines of this number 17 of masters and leaders, and it states, having created leaders, their faith in Tao was diminished. That's what we were talking about. Once you created leaders, their faith in Tao was diminished. That's their faith in themselves, their faith in all that they are, their faith in their ability to make their own choices. Having become a leader, his trust in the people was diminished. And what that means is, like, look, you created a Tao, you created a leader, and your faith in the harmony of all things is being diminished because you have a leader. A leader, what do? They compartmentalize, they make laws, they make rules, they tell you, like, this is this way and this is that way and this is how things are going to go, and all of those things, right? So having created leaders, the people lose their faith in Tao, and their faith in Tao is diminished, and their faith in themselves is diminished, and their ability to be who they are. Having become a leader, his trust in the people was diminished. He has a position. He doesn't want to lose that position. And because he doesn't want to lose that position, he doesn't have faith in the people. And he starts to create laws that people will have to follow. And as he creates laws that people have to follow, what ends up happening is he continues to distrust the people, which is why he continues to create laws and rules. He says, this is the way people should act. And then he starts really getting involved in that logic-based mind. When there are great masters, there are no leaders. She works day and night and says nothing about it. When the work is done, the people say, amazing, we did it all by ourselves. And that's a big deal, right? When there are no great masters, there are no leaders. When there are great masters, there are no leaders. You don't need somebody to lead you when you can lead yourself. And a great master will do the work and allow you to lead yourself. When a great master wakes up in the morning and goes out and starts to, do the things that need to be done for the community and for herself and for the others, without moaning about it, without getting attention drawn to it, just doing the work, just simply doing the work. And here we have 17 people who have been through this room, and we're looking at number 17. And so I gotta feel like that's significant. I just glanced down at the number, and it was 17. I just want to take note of that. So this verse really kind of breaks down the difference between what a master is and what a leader is. A master doesn't lead people. A master allows people to be led by themselves, by Tao. There is no need to. There's no need at all to lead people. They're going to be fine. They want leading, and that's problematic because then they create the position of leader, and then eventually those people fear their leaders, and they despise their leaders. So it's really great to be able to be a master when it comes to your interactions with other people, because then you don't have to lead them. Even if they're asking for help, you don't want to lead them anywhere. You want them to be able to be led, not by you, but by themselves. And you don't want them to shut down, because that happens so often when, like, we're trying to, I know I'm someone who shuts down. As soon as someone tries to lead me somewhere, I shut down and I say, yeah, get it up, yeah. I'm not here to be led by you. I'll figure it out. And I do, and I always do. or I always have. That doesn't mean that other people don't help me. I think that, some of the greatest help I've had is people just asking me a simple question and then walking away. You don't have to be waiting for the answer in order for me to answer it. Like I will do my work. And if we can have faith that other people will do their work as well, then they will. If you don't believe they're going to do their work, then they're not going to be encouraged to do their work. And so it's really great to be able to know and to have faith that, no, it's going to happen. It's going to happen in their time, in the way that they need to. I'm going to read through this one more time just so we get another glimpse of it. In the time of the great masters, there were no leaders. You didn't need a leader. Then those whom the people loved led the way. Of course, we love you. We think you're fucking brilliant. We want to ask you a question. Tell us how to move forward. After having created the position, the people feared their leaders. Then they despised them. That's the dissolution of trust in Tao that we have. When you have trust in yourself, when you trust yourself, when you have faith in the fact that you know what you're doing and you know where you're at, then that's when you can make it. That's when you can make decisions on your own for yourself, for the best. And when you do that, it will expand out to others as well. Like other people will be inspired by you. And that's the best way to inspire people, is to just be who you are. Having created leaders, their faith in Tao was diminished. Having become a leader, his trust in the people was diminished. See, and this is the thing. Like when you have leaders, your faith in Tao was diminished. The faith in Tao, your faith in yourself, your faith in your own path is being diminished. Having become a leader, his trust in the people was diminished. And that's a big deal. The trust, like the leaders don't have faith in us as people. Right? They lose their faith in us. They lose their trust in us. They can't trust us. And so they try to hold on to power. They don't trust us to, vote for what's best for us. They don't think we know what's best for us. So they have to create rules and laws so that we can stay within those rules and laws. And that's what happens. And we are all living under the influence currently of all the rules and all the laws that have been created because leaders didn't trust the people. And that's problematic, because now we have a world in which each and every one of us is living under the influence of some concept that we hold on to that was created by someone else. And by that happening, we don't have faith in ourselves. We look to our leaders and we look to people and say, what does it mean to be normal? And this is me and I'm not normal. This is me and I'm different. And it's like, well, maybe you're different because you're you, and that's nothing to be ashamed of. There's nothing to hide away. When there are great masters, there are no leaders. She works day and night and says nothing about it. When the work is done, the people say, amazing, we did it ourselves. And that's the thing. You just inspire people. Inspire people to do what they do. And when they do what they do, they are open to who they are. They're open to being and trusting Tao. It's a beautiful experience. And if each of us can be, can take one step towards being a master rather than being a leader, then we would all be inspiring each other every day. So if anybody has a number between 1 and 81 you want to pick, definitely come up and we'll talk about that Tao for the day. This was number 17. I'm your host, Martin John. I am a recovery mentor. I talk to people about recovery all the time. I talk about what is it we're recovering to, because I don't care so much about what you're recovering from, because what you're recovering from can be a myriad of things. It might be cocaine, might be alcohol, might be social media, might be your own ego, might be all sorts of things you can be recovering from. You might be under the influence of a whole number of things that caused you to want to escape through whatever it was that, that you pacify with, or whatever it is that you embrace as comfort. All those things are just fine, as long as you remain at the center of the circle, as long as you remain who you are. And that's what's most important, is that you are here contributing your work to the world and contributing from your heart. We have leaders because, so much faith in Tao has been diminished. And leaders, so much trust in the people has been diminished, that increasing ways of them manipulating us to continue to diminish our faith in Tao exists. And I'm here just to speak on the idea that Tao within you is your truth. And when you can embrace Tao without asking others to change who they are, without asking the leaders to stop being leaders, they're going to be leaders and they're not going to have faith in people. But that doesn't mean you have to lose your faith and diminish your faith in Tao. So if you benefit from the work that you're hearing here on wisdom through Tao of the Day and through my other talks when I do them, definitely feel free to send me a financial tip through Venmo at martinjohn_Garcia. You can also do that through my profile, my Linktree profile. I have my Recover Yourself workshop. So if you're interested in the work I do and you think that the workshop in this concept of recovering who you are is of interest, you might want to check out the link in my profile to get access to the Recover Yourself workshop. It's been recorded and it is available for the lifetime of my site and my work through my website at martinjohn.com. And yeah, and that's $147, or you can get access to it while you're a subscriber. And a subscription gets you all sorts of access to me, as well as priority here on the Wisdom app. Thank you so much for joining me here on Tao of the Day. I'm your host, Martin John, and until next time, keep recovering yourself.